what we got on the menu? We are talking about athletes and growth spurts. Why do we see such a large increase in the number of athletes getting injured during this growth spurt phase? So give me a couple minutes, you guys. Hopefully I can illustrate this for you and get you thinking about a couple things. So I'm going to use this athlete here, all right? This is going to be what we refer to as our load versus capacity model, all right? So currently this athlete, this ball represents their current capacity level of what they can physiologically handle, all right? So right now this athlete isn't experiencing any pain, any discomfort, or any sort of injuries, all right? Now, let's say we know this athlete's plan laid out starting the week to the end of the week, all right? They're going to be going through all kinds of physical endeavors, all right? So what we can kind of plan on is, say this athlete is going to be exposed to maybe 2 lighter practices throughout the week and maybe 1 intermediate intensity practice, all right? They're also going to be playing 1 game a week, all right? So on that game day, because of the nature of sport, it's going to be a little bit more intense, maybe a little bit more physical. Psychological components are going to tie into it, so we know that loading is going to be a little bit more, all right? So based off of this athlete right now and what they have been able to adapt to, we know right now that this athlete's physiological capacity matches and the loading that they're placing upon themselves does not exceed this. So again, they're not experiencing any pain or discomfort. Now, the issue comes in when all of a sudden this athlete starts to grow and go through the physiological changes that are inevitable when they're in that age range. All right, so we oftentimes see is during these growth spurts is an increase in growth hormone, an increase in testosterone, which is also going to elicit an increase in height, weight, potentially their ability to produce power, their ability to express strength and force. All right, now once upon a time, the light practices, the intermediate practices in the games are going to exceed or excel the amount of intensity that this athlete is expressing just based off of those physiological changes. All right, so even though the practice schedule, the prescription doesn't change, but because this athlete is all of a sudden producing more force, more strength, jumping and landing, decelerating, accelerating with more force, is also because during this growth spurt phase, oftentimes bones grow faster than muscles and soft tissues. So again, we're going to see instability, we're going to see neurological issues. So again, it's not just even to the force and the strength this athlete is producing, but also the instability and the other factors that are going to be placed on this athlete's joints, all right? Again, they might even have the same practice schedule, all right? They still got 2 lighter practices and intermediate practice, but we can see the game, again, creates much higher loads, all right? So what we see on here is, again, that once upon a time, loading that was not excessive for this athlete has all of a sudden exceeded the capacity, and we start to see injuries, pain, and discomfort start to rear their heads, such as Osgood-Schlatters, Sivers issues, and then other related issues that are indications of overuse injuries, all right? So if we know these things are inevitable, all right, what can we do about it? The thing that we want to do for our young athletes is set them up for success. Oftentimes what I see is the overemphasis of skill on sport as opposed to the emphasis on building a wide base and increasing this athlete's capacity faster than the inevitable loads that they're going to be placing upon themselves. All right, so what we want to be able to do is know that these things are inevitable. What we want to be able to do is have a plan for this athlete that they're going to be expressed and exposed to balance and coordination, stability, strength training, mobility, jumping and throwing and landing and mechanics and all the things that are going to helpfully increase the capacity so they don't become a statistic. The injury rates go up 75% more for athletes during this time frame. In fact, the amount of games and game time lost doubles compared to athletes that are not going through growth spurts, all right? So we know this is inevitable. So what we want to be able to do is set up a long-term athlete development plan that is going to help these young athletes expand their movement library, become more competent, become more confident in the things that they're doing, increase their strength, and so that way when they do have the inevitable forces that they're going to be displaying on the practice field or on the game day, that tissue and the underlying foundation is strong enough to support now the Ferrari engine that is put on this chassis, all right? So if we do this appropriately, that the once upon a time capacity that is no longer appropriate is now adjusted and adapted. And now, even when we place more loading on the system, we still have room so we don't exceed that capacity level and again, end up as a statistic of going too hard, too fast, and all of a sudden our athletes sitting on the sideline or as a broke down, burnt down robot that we oftentimes see. We want to emphasize happy, healthy, versatile athletes and make sure that we're looking for the long term and making sure that they're healthy and happy. So this is our illustration of load versus capacity. Hopefully it helps you out.